Hello, all. This is part two to the deaths I've dealt with, seen, and encountered. I wanted to pick back up on this one because it's something that I've dealt with a lot in my life. Death is something that's closely associated. It runs neck and neck with mental instability. Something I happen to have experienced and know a lot about. And along with myself, my wife's family has dealt with mental problems. Her mother was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She was, I don't like to speak ill will towards anyone, most definitely people that are not with us anymore. My wife's mother was in and out of rehabs, took pills all of her life, and never really grew up right. She was more of like one of those friends than more mother-in-law. And before she passed, first my wife's grandfather, may he rest in peace, he was a great man, give you the shirt off his back. His name was Clifford Lamb. Well, he passed away several years ago, and like I said, he was my wife's father. Her real father was a piece of you know what, and he was not a good person. He did things that made it to where he couldn't be around his kids anymore. Let me just leave it at that. So her grandfather was her father. Her father was never around. Her father was also babied her mother her entire life. So when her grandfather passed away, her mother was extremely upset and hurt, and actually prayed to die. No bull. She wanted to die when Grandpa passed away. Okay, she was quite lost, even though she had a husband. Still, her father had spoiled her whole life. She didn't know how to be her own person, I guess, putting it vaguely. So soon after Grandpa passed away, her mom passed away at the age of 50. I'm 48 and my wife's 45. So this was some years ago now. But like I said, her mom lived a life, that kind of life, in and out of rehabs, dealt with mental health issues, and so does my wife and our children. I have ADD. My wife's family's been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I'm not going to say my wife is or is not. We don't really know. Okay, it's a gray area, gray subject. So I'll just leave it at that. My wife had some terrible things happen to her in her earlier years. The worst of the worst. Okay, so the worst happened to her twice in her life. I don't want to really put any more out there. I shouldn't even have gone that far with it. But I'm just trying to give people, really the younger crowd, a good grasp and understanding the point I'm trying to get across here. So her mom passed away at 50. It was another one of these gut-wrenching things that I had to deal with. Her grandfather and her mother both passed away within a 2-year span. As soon as her grandfather passed away, her mom literally prayed that she wanted to go, and so she immediately developed terminal ill cancer. Lived 2 years with cancer, and this is at a time when I started to develop occur an addiction, opiate addiction. Okay, started in this time period. So when her mom passed away, first it was Grandpa, then it was her mother, and they were both open caskets. And it was the first time that I had seen, I'd already seen some friends had passed, but this was the first time my first real life encounters with loved ones. casket, and they were very hard to deal with. It was very hard to look. When Grandpa passed, they had the service close to our house where my parents attended to, and when my parents got there and they were asking me, "Okay, you all right? You all right?" They said I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I was spooked. It spooked me to see Grandpa laying there in the coffin. It's not an easy thing to grasp and deal with. The same with her mom. It never got easier. So those two individuals, her mother and father, are now gone. I'm telling you, I got friends, school classmates that are dying on me. Best friends are dying on me, and I'm seeing a lot of deaths. And this continues. This is not a hush-hush topic. Everyone knows about this. People are dying in the streets from drug overdoses daily. People are dying from killing themselves, car wrecks, all kind of different things. But when it comes to people that deal with mental instability and struggles on that level, death becomes very familiar. I had, like I said, several friends that have passed away now. A good friend, JJ, he's a guy we all grew up with. He run a bar in Buckhead. I feel bad I didn't get to spend any time with him. We were on a baseball team together growing up. We were fairly tight. He passed away with a long list of other individuals. And it's really, shaken and rattled my cage when going on my second best friend just killed himself. Like I've said before, Aaron McDowell, one of my best, if not at one time was my best friend, killed himself 3 months ago. And it's what started me on this adventure. It's what really kicked off me wanting to start a nonprofit, wanting to help the younger generation. I've been in touch now with what's the organization? Big Brothers and Sisters. It's an organization out of Atlanta that you can mentor to and help younger children, all kind of different situations and caliber of people. And they're not all, they're not all kids with similar problems, but there are some that are, and those are who I'm shooting for. I've also been in contact with the high school I went to, and I've emailed a few of the top heads in the LD department, and to see if they're willing to let me have a chance at speaking with some of the kids, some of the LD classmates, or what I was, ADD, LD growing up. And like I've said a numerous amount of times, it's something very hard to deal with. It's very hard for a teenager, a young kid, to have a label over his head like that, okay? I know these struggles, I know the pain, I know the humility that comes along with it, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, okay? And they're in every school, they're in every neighborhood. They may not be in every family, but they're in every neighborhood. There are a growing number of kids out there with mental health problems. And when they don't deal with them in the proper way, and they don't take the proper channels, such as myself, it usually leads down a brutal road of addiction, self-hate, self-hurt, self-mutilation, suicidal ideations, suicidal attempts, suicidal thoughts, humility, embarrassment. I can't think of anything that at that time that was good that could come out of it. All bad. It wasn't until I was much, much older. Now at 48, it's only been within the past few years that I've really gotten a grasp on that. I could possibly be a beacon of light to my younger self, to a younger crowd. to this younger crowd growing up with these strikes against you, against them. When you make the life choices that you do, that I did, and many that have, and many that will, these choices, they stick with you. They're a blemish on your record. They're a blemish on the way people view you. They're a blemish on your family. Your family becomes an embarrassment. I've embarrassed my family on more than a dozen occasions. Just an all-around bad, it's just an all-around bad scene. Horrible thing to be a part, to have to be a part of, have to deal with, have to watch. I've seen a lot of friends deal with it. I've now seen a lot of family members deal with it. Like I said, my two boys, they both are dealing with mental instability issues, and I know it all too well, and it hurts deep down. My son's recently just moved back home. God bless him. At 16, he moved out, and he roommated with this guy. Well, his buddy wound up going back to jail. I don't know all the details, but he won't be around any longer. My son struggles with a lot of the same issues that me and my wife and her mothers have dealt with, okay? Without trying to put too many labels on people, on my loved ones. This is the reality of it, okay? My son's 21, and he's never had a driver's license. He moved out at 16, and at that point, I lost all ability to be able to guide him, tell him what to do. I still talk to him and tell him what to do, but he didn't live at home, so he didn't have to listen to me. But now he's back home, so I pray to God this is my second chance, that I can help better his life. He needs his license. He's got a lot of demons that he fights. Both of my sons do. So luckily I'm having a second chance at helping him, which is all aimed towards helping him to better himself and grow and be a man. But it also helps me too. It's also helpful and therapeutic for me to finally be in a situation and be in a better place in my own life where I can help him financially, emotionally, mentally, all that. These are all things that I was weak at when I was growing up. Like I've said before, I attempted suicide at 15. I was very depressed. I was very embarrassed of being LD. I was very humiliated at being the stupid kid in class, etc. So I lived with that, dealt with it, and I want to give back. I want to spare some children these days. I would have loved to be able to have talked to had a Mike ADD advocate. I would have loved for me to come in my classroom and just tell me it was going to be all right. Tell me no matter what kind of label people put on you, and just because you can't be on the average reading level and the average math level for your age, just because you can't make it in that aspect, doesn't mean you can't make it in general. Nothing is farther from the truth that I've learned after 48 years, but I didn't know this. No one ever explained this to me. I only had me and me alone to look at, and the people that I went to school with and friends with to judge myself against. And I always looked at myself as less than, lower than. I was in and out of rehab through my teenage years. Another embarrassing thing to deal with. In and out of jails all through my 20s, 30s, and part of my 40s. And I can thankfully say I'm finally of sound mind, body, and spirit. And I haven't been my entire life. And I never knew it could all be transformed. It could all be done from within. I didn't know I didn't need anyone else's help. I was always made to feel like I needed outside help. I had tutors growing up. If I couldn't fit in, I was always, on the lower grade level academically than everyone else. And that in itself is a nightmare for a teenager, a young kid coming into puberty to deal with. It's an absolute nightmare. And I want to give back now. I want to spread the word to kids with mental health instability that they too are going to be alright. They're not going to wind up dead or in prison if they don't choose to. I haven't been in prison. I've been to jail a gazillion times. But I found out that guys like me, people like me in general, they are, we all have strengths and weaknesses. And our weaknesses seem to overpower us at times. And it doesn't have to be. It's only because we say it is. It's only because have told ourselves that we're no good, we're not average, we're below average. This is only things that we're telling ourselves. My mother told me all growing up, "You're smart, Michael, you're smart." She saw things in me that I'd never seen in myself. I was good at sports. I was good at breakdancing. When I was in 6th grade, I taught the 8th graders how to breakdance. I was good at different things. But to me, that didn't mean anything. Still being the least smart person in the class, that's what meant everything to me. That's where my depression, suicidal thoughts and ideations stem from. Me, as my father always told me, you are your worst enemy. I was my own worst enemy, constantly making bad choices. We are quick to jump. We don't think things through. We have to slow down and think things through more thoroughly, and by doing this, it just means it takes longer. I could pass tests like everyone else, but I had to study and work harder and longer than everybody else. But I didn't really see it any other ways that I can't. When now I finally realize that I can. I know people that are, much more educated than me and are in a bad way financially after so many years on the job. I know quite a few people have been laid off. I chose construction because, us ADD guys were kind of hands-on. We're claustrophobic. We can't stand to sit down at a desk. We're hyperactive and constantly got to be moving around. So, for a guy like me, a small business owner is the way to go. Come to find out, guys with ADDs, most of them work for themselves. And the reason why is because the way we are. We have a short attention span. Somebody can tell me something, and if I'm not 100% deemed on it and that interested in it, I'm going to forget immediately. It's going to go one ear and out the other. And these are patterns that can be very destructive. But you can learn to overcome them. You can learn to fight them. I now know people that are amazing people, amazing guys that are artists. I know guys that have ADD that are writers. I know guys that have ADD that are millionaires, that have found a way to make another way. But on the flip side, I know just as many, probably 10 times more, guys that I chose to associate with and hang out with because we had so much in common. And where do you think those people are this day and time? Barely living, scraping by, still doing the same old BS, doing hard drugs, in and out of jail, don't have a driver's license, don't have a tag, constantly having to bum rides off other people because they never got their stuff together. I got friends like that still to this day. I got friends that are in their 50s that haven't had their driver's license in 30 years. How they've gotten by all this time, I don't know. But you don't have to be like that. It's a choice. And I didn't know this growing up. I really didn't. I thought the choices were all made for me. I had seen so many people like myself around me, in and out of jails, rehabs, mental institutions. That's just how I thought it was. I've seen so many people die. It's maddening. The last time I used, I'm a year and a half clean now. The last time I was around my boy, we went for a drive, and we drove by a gas station, close by his house, and there was a million cops there, literally a million. I was up to no good, so I slowed down and got a little paranoid, a little bent out of shape, because I was riding dirty with my buddy, and we passed the gas station, 10 million cops there. Don't think nothing of it. My buddy calls me the next day and tells me this is a friend of ours whose ex-wife, which has now come back and now his wife, they're one of these on-again, off-again marriages. They got kids together. And his girlfriend / wife, ex-wife, on and off again, gets a pill from a guy, does it, doesn't sit well, it's supposed to be a Roxy, not sure what it is, a Press Fentanyl, whatever, gets sick, gets ill, ends upset about it. So her man, our buddy, goes to straighten this, and he's the reason the gas station was shut down. Goes up to the gas station, close to my buddy's house, close to where my friend's house, goes up and meets with the guy that sold him them pills, yada yada yada, has some words, guy pulls out a shotgun, blows him away, boom, in the smithereens, right there in the gas station parking lot. When we drove by, we didn't know, but this was our friend, dead, from going and trying to solve a small issue that happens every day. When I was in my using days, seeing this kind of junk happen daily, weekly, all the time. People in the drug world, in the drug culture, and drug addicts, and I'm not excluding myself. I'm a reformed addict, but we have all do and done things that are not pretty. Robbed people, ripped them off, done shady dirt, and it comes back to haunt you. It will come back to bite you. And I see it over and over and over again. So, the last time I hung out with my buddy was a year and a half ago. That guy died, was killed at the gas station. Another guy died a day later in my buddy's bedroom. My buddy, if you haven't figured out, is a dealer, okay? Guy drops dead in his bedroom. Leaves one of the other guys to deal with and defend with the police. How he's gotten by countless times. There's only one way somebody stays out of jail and prison and is continually in and out of jail. I'm not going to say it, but I'm saying it without saying it. So I choose to get out of this life, get away from it. It almost killed me. The last time I was around, I OD'd myself, okay? I almost lost my life. And if they didn't have the proper medical canisters around, Narcan, if they didn't have Narcan, I wouldn't be here telling you this story today. This is one out of several, for instances, where I almost lost my life due to using other things. And from this habit, other things happened. And I wound up having to have 2 major surgeries inside of a year. I don't want to go into too much detail and be too specifically, because I'm going to be honest with you. My life is not an open book, okay? Some people's are. My family and my mother is finding out the truth about me now, here, through this, through me exposing myself, and this stuff is how my mom's learning the bitter truth about me. And I don't have the heart, don't have the balls, the nerve, or the lack of love to simply tell her what I'm telling you guys, that I was a lowlife. I was a drug addict for many years, and it's only made my will and my strong desire even more plentiful. After losing so many friends and seeing so many people hurt from addiction and mental health instability, and in and out of families, in and out of defects, jail, which I've dealt with a lot on my end. I've dealt with defects 4 or 5 times as defects come knocked on my door, and I've had to deal with them. Thank the good Lord that things didn't fall apart from me sooner. Thank God. And I think it's because I did, while in addiction, I was somewhat what you would call what do they call those people? That can maintain their life and structure. I worked. As soon as my wife was pregnant with my son, I grew up immediately. I wasn't in heavy use at the time. When I was 27, my son was born. I straightened up a lot. I stopped drinking immediately. I went and started working a lot more, and I took things in life a lot more serious. And so I was a functioning addict for many, many years. And I worked construction. Hard, physical, hard labor to make sure my wife and children had a roof over their head, food on the table. So these are things that I never thought dreamed possible. These are things I never could believe that I could do and pull off. I had that little faith in myself that I didn't think it was possible. This topic of death is directly correlated with mental instability, and addiction is tied neck and neck with it as well. These are my stories. This is my reasoning. This is what it's about. Helping this younger generation look in the mirror and tell themselves they're better than they're telling themselves they are. They're possible for great things. They can and will succeed if they want to and try hard enough. This is Mike, ADD's Advocate, and I love you. you and thank you for following my story. Till next time, salute.